Morning, everybody. I thought I'd take this stair just before I don't fall on my face to start off this morning. So, listen, it's an absolute pleasure to be part of London Tech Week. We're very proud to be part of it as a company overall, and not just for the participation in the tech industry together, but it's actually the opportunity just to hear some of the speakers, and having been part of the kick-off yesterday, it just reminds you like what a vibrant time we're working in. And maybe I'm biased because I've been in this industry for a long time, but it's an incredibly good time to be in the tech industry. So I think hopefully you'll get a chance this week to hear, as Ollie said, from some of the big companies, but actually I think a lot of the innovation is coming from some of the smaller companies, and hopefully will teach the ecosystem kind of how it's going to evolve and how we take advantage of the opportunities ahead of us. I think if you think about topics like AI, as you said, 73% of you believe that this is going to be the thing that will change, fundamentally change the way that the world at large will operate. So I think I'm proud to be able to talk about that topic this morning. So if we kick into it. If we take back, we're here today in London. If we go back to the end of the 19th century, the discussion on AI today is about the change with the fourth industrial revolution. But this is not a revolution, not the first time we've been through an industrial revolution. So who recognises this picture? Yeah, I should have done that in the little quiz. It is Piccadilly Circus in 1893. And what do you notice about what's going on in Piccadilly Circus at that time? Sorry for people at the back if you can't see the picture. So there are no cars in 1893. There's a lot of horses and carts. And in 1893, it took 100,000 horses to run London. So that was the way that everything got done in London. If I move on, and by the way, 25% of the industrial output was based around the industry of horses in 1893. So roll forward to 1920. I don't know about you, Piccadilly Circus looks more chaotic there than it does today, but yeah, so seriously, it looks dangerous with all those people walking around. So it is monopolised, just within a short space of 30 years. It has changed from being a horse and cart industry to being dominated by the automotive industry. So you think about the change that we're going through now and what that means for people's lives, for the way we work, etc. This is a very similar scenario to what went on. And what happened to the people that operated around the horse and cart industry was we needed to change as the new industries emerged and new economic opportunity emerged. There needed to be a transformation in the way that people lived their lives, in the way that they made money, in the way that jobs survived, in skills. And that actually led to a more productive a stronger economic output for society. But it also led to some challenges in thinking about, well, what kind of laws and regulations need to be put in place in order to think about people's jobs. Obviously, the whole of the automotive industry rose, and that meant regulation of a different kind. But I think it's just an interesting parallel to think about the change that went through there, and the parallel for kind of where we are now as we think about the world at large and the opportunity ahead. So bringing us back maybe to the 21st century, all of you here hopefully have spent time to come to London Tech Week, to meet with colleagues, to hear speakers, to get a sense of like what does that opportunity mean for you as leaders, given this is the Leaders in Tech Summit. And I think many of the leaders that I speak to are wrestling with how to take advantage of AI technology. As the survey showed, many of you thinking like, I can see that there's disruption coming for my organisation, but what am I going to do about it? Where do I place my bets? What's this going to mean to the way that my people work? What does this mean to the way that I compete in the market? And AI is going to impact both the way we live, certainly the way we run our businesses, and one would argue the way that globally the world runs. And if you think about AI perhaps as a new technology, but it runs our lives today. So I think if you think of anyone that started today on social media, much of that is powered by AI in terms of the information that's served up to you. If any of you drive an electric car, like a Tesla, etc., much of that is automated in terms of information that is being served up to you. One of the ones I saw the other day was if you are interested in going on holiday and you see a photo on social media, AI now has the power to take that photo, automate where it is by using the pixels in the picture, and then pre-serve you a holiday that is based on that picture that you've seen on social media. So maybe that's for you, maybe that's not for you, but it's a clever way of using information that's available to automate holiday travel service, as an example. So I think it's impacting the way that we operate overall at large, but it's also having some fundamental impacts on different brands and different ways that, iconic brands in some ways. So if I maybe just segue to the next slide about an iconic brand that AI is giving us new insight on. Maybe not the brand you're expecting. So William Shakespeare, another London theme, given the hall is just not too far away from here. So one of our clever architects back at Microsoft decided in his spare time to do some cognitive services, AI analytics on some of the works of Shakespeare. So he actually put the whole of the works of Shakespeare through AI in his spare time. And what he was looking for was a way of condensing a massive amount of information to provide new forms of insights. And his test was, what does this tell us, and can technology actually show us the real insights from some of the works of Shakespeare? So I'm going to give you a little snippet. So whether you're a Shakespeare fan or not, I'm going to give you a little snippet to what some of these results show. So famous play, Romeo and Juliet. For anyone that hasn't seen Romeo and Juliet, I do give the end away, so sorry about that as we go through this. What it was looking at, so you've got Juliet, the nurse, and Romeo, and this is basically talking about the levels of emotion that occur in that play. So put it through the AI algorithms, and what it basically shows, surprisingly perhaps, is that the most emotion showed through Romeo and Juliet is actually Romeo. Go figure. I won't make a comment on that. But actually, it's a fairly calm play. But you've got some peaks of emotions that go up, both up and down. But actually, the AI does a pretty good job of analysing the sentiment analysis of Romeo and Juliet. So all going well so far. But if you move on to a kind of more complex play in Hamlet, a play that has kind of espionage, intrigue, underlying tones, it has people trying to manipulate each other, it has people going stir-crazy, it's got all that kind of stuff in it. What you can see here, obviously you've got the Hamlet meets Ghost, the death of Polonius, and alas, poor Yorick, but actually, when AI interprets this, rather than interpreting it as a tragedy, which is what the Hamlet play is, it actually interprets it in a very positive light. So the AI technology is unable to read the nuances of people trying to manipulate each other. One might term sarcasm or underlying nuances in the play. And so although the technology is very smart because it's able to analyze it together, so far, this technology cannot interpret the nuances in the way that humans can. So I think this is a good example of it does do a great job of compiling the information, but it doesn't quite yet. It interprets things that perhaps it could fool you into thinking it was one thing versus being another. And this, I guess, is part of the parallel of why AI and human intelligence need to be combined in order to achieve competitive intelligence. But listen, most of the jobs that you do every day, analysing Shakespeare is probably not top of your mind, but thinking about kind of what your competitive differentiation is. Now, if I'd have showed a slide like this, perhaps even 2-3 years ago, the typical press clippings that would come up would be on a more negative vein, where it's kind of hashtag drama, AI is going to take over the world. And what we're seeing, which is a positive thing, I think, is actually what the consequences of AI could be in a very positive vein for business. And I definitely see that sentiment in business leaders where we're focusing on the constructive use of how AI can actually have very strong competitive differentiation for your business, and actually how you're applying that use case for your organisation, and looking at the skills applications for your people. And in fact, just this year, we did a study of over 3,000 business leaders for a report that was looking at maximising the AI opportunity, really just to understand, like, what are leaders doing right now? What are they thinking about? What's on their mind? What are they concerned about in order to move forward? And there were some pretty scary statistics that came out of that. And there was also, you'll be pleased to hear, some positive signs that came out of that, which I'll come on to. So the scary statistic, as you can see on the slide there, was that 41% of business leaders surveyed in that piece of research said that they thought that due to technological disruption, competitive threats, new startants, new entrants, that 41% of them thought that their business would cease to exist within 5 years. So quite a dramatic start to the research study. But the piece that was probably more alarming with that 50% of the business leaders were not doing anything about it. They knew that they needed to do something to change and evolve, but they had not yet taken the plunge to invest in AI technology or any other disruptive technology in order to consider how to deal with that threat. Part of the thing we then looked at was, well, why is that? And I think part of it is that many organisations are not quite clear where to start. And so part of the job that all of you have is really just thinking about how do you maximise on that opportunity with AI. Of the companies that were doing something with AI technology, by the way, in that study, those organisations overall are performing 5% better than the rest of the organisations. And typically those organisations are focusing on starting with small pilots. They don't quite know what it's going to achieve yet, but they're just going for it to say, listen, I'm going to try some things, and if it fails, I don't mind. I'm going to learn some things. They're doing it by involving all of their staff and people, so all of that worry about what's this going to mean for my jobs, they're doing it with great collaboration with their people and teams. And then probably most importantly, they are focusing on the skills and preparedness of their people to think about how do they reskill them and get them skilled up and up to speed. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of organisations that I have seen do this quite well, and I'll skim through these. So some well-known brands up on there. So firstly, Marks and Spencer's. Who loves a Percy pig? Marks and Spencer's are using, and you think they're a traditional retailer, certainly one that is being disrupted, but they're using AI technology to think about the supply chain between where they hold their stock and how they get that onto the shop floor. And they're using analytics from weather and other surrounding data points that would tell them on this particular day who buys more Percy pigs than another, for example, or who buys more ice cream than another. And then the AI will basically ensure that in the time of, if someone drops something on the floor or they're running out of stock for shock horror of Percy pigs on the by their cash point, that they can ensure that they get the right stock quickly to the cash point as quickly as possible to maximise their sales. So that's a sort of practical example that Marks and Spencer's are using. Agrimetrics here, and I'll come back to talk about them a little bit at the end of the talk. They are a company that is focusing on using AI for transformation of farming around how we produce food in a more productive way. So many small-scale farmers don't have the right technology platforms to be able to manage their output of their crops, for example. And so this is a platform that will basically, using again data analytics from weather, soil, cow feed, etc. It will be able to teach the farmer how to maximise yield for their crops. So if you're a dairy farmer, it will know which cow is likely to produce the most milk based on what they eat and what weather environments they're in. And if you're a potato farmer and you have a specific contract with Marks and Spencer's for a certain size of potato, it will be able to tell you what environments you need to be in order to maximise that food production. So a very cool application there. BP is using AI to focus in on where to kind of drill for oil. Obviously, that's a very expensive exercise that BP go through, and they're doing high-scale analytics and AI and machine learning to really focus in on where to focus their industrial investigation. And then finally, on Marmite, I won't do the who, I should do a quiz of who likes Marmite. In fact, I noticed today on Marmite's website, they've launched a new Marmite. So for those of you that are Marmite fans, you might be interested in this. For those who aren't, this will just shock you. It's Marmite peanut butter. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the point of this social app was effectively it's an app using Microsoft Emotion AI, and you bite a piece of toast or you have Marmite, and you basically take a picture of your face as you've eaten the Marmite, and then it will give you it gives Marmite some sentiment analysis of whether you're a lover or a hater. Check it out on their website. But actually, it's a cool way, and I think Marmite saw great social engagement on the back of this. I dread to think what the Marmite peanut butter one will do. So those are four examples. One of the things that many of these companies did well, as we talked about, was skills. And I know this is a topic that is top of mind for all business leaders that I speak to. And so I think thinking about the challenge that we have with skills, there'll be over 800,000 vacancies predicted by the year 2020. This year, in terms of people exiting GCSE with either computer science or IT qualifications, it has reduced by 10,000. And females going through computer science and STEM is at its lowest since 2010. So without being doom and gloom on this, we know, I mean, certainly Microsoft feel this, and I'm sure many of the other tech companies in the room, we all have to take a responsibility for what we're going to do about skills to kind of drive the innovation going forward. So I wanted to do, none of this is particularly about plugging Microsoft, but we have launched an AI business school, which I would highly encourage all the leaders in the room to take a look at. And this is kind of helping you on kind of how to think about AI, how to think about the framework for AI, how to think about the ethical consequences for AI, how to think about the skills for AI. So if you're a leader wrestling with what to do about it, then this set of resources has been put together in conjunction with academics, business leaders, and other technical specialists to kind of give you a kickstart in doing that. And that's underpinned by something that we have, which is the AI Academy, which will be for your teams. So I would highly encourage you to take a look at that. So the next area that business leaders talk a lot to me about is really about the ethical framework and what's the responsible choices that we make as business leaders around the topic of AI. As you saw in the example with Shakespeare, there's clearly still some choices that we need to make around. If you were to take the analysis from Hamlet and make a business decision on that, that would be a business decision that would be somewhat biased based on how you move forward with it. And so I think thinking about how you think about both the ethical side of it, but also the responsibility side of it. So topics like the environment, topics like accessibility. I think when we've gone through previous industrial revolutions, there have been sets of communities that have been left behind. And I think as leaders, we have an incredible opportunity to make sure that this is the most inclusive industrial revolution that we have been through. So we have got some things that we've focused hard on as we as a company have thought about the change and transformation for Microsoft, to think about what the ethical framework is if you're thinking about implementing AI. Some guidelines there, which again, as I said, they're included in the AI business course. Brad Smith and Harry Shum are behind me here. This is our president and then our head of our Cambridge research. Wrote a book called The Future Computed, and it also covers kind of what the future of that will look like, but it does include some really good sections on ethics for you to consider. We've just launched another book on AI and the impact in manufacturing, and that's the first of the series for the vertical options of those, and there will be more of those to come. So keep a lookout for that. So if you think about the mission that we have, part of the stance that we take as a company is kind of founded on on the mission that Microsoft has. When Satya Nadella took over as CEO just 5 years ago, he took a principle that said, if Microsoft didn't exist, what would the world miss? And that led to the creation of this mission. And whether you like missions or not, this is a mission that guides every employee and every leader at Microsoft. And this principle about every person and every organization on the planet, when we're thinking about our business decisions, we want to make sure it genuinely includes every person and every organization. And so that leads us to making the right ethical choices. I think Satya talks about our strategy for our AI being not just what we can do, but what as leaders we should do in the innovation and path going forward. And I would encourage you to think about that ethos as you're making decisions for AI in your business. And this shapes, I guess, the focus that we have on an initiative that we refer to as AI for Good. We're proud of this work. We've invested over 100 million globally in this, in investing in companies that are focused on using AI for good purposes. And that's around the themes of accessibility, Earth, and also most recently we announced the humanitarian action, encouraging organizations to say, how can you use this technology for greater good? What could the impact be to make sure that everybody is included? So I'm briefly going to play a very short video, and then I'll just come back at the end to wrap up. So if I play a video just to give you a flavor of the work that's going on, and hopefully this works.
Like never before, our world is changing. Faced with some of our most critical challenges, human ingenuity triumphs. Today, the Microsoft AI for Good initiative enables a person with an idea to accelerate it, to give it scale, to create change for the better.
Microsoft AI will help our work by empowering people to take action.
Through AI for Earth, photos can now help save a species. With AI for accessibility, the visual world becomes an audible experience.
Sanitarium peanut butter.
And with AI for humanitarian action, first responders can target their efforts faster than ever before.
It feels humbling to know that I'm actually helping another human being.
Today, we are empowering others to forge new paths, to fight famine before a crisis strikes, and protect ecosystems by identifying forests down to a single tree.
We have the forest that we have today. We can't change that. What we can change is the future.
Microsoft AI is fueling some of the most passionate and creative people on our planet, with the help of citizen scientists, to make change, once thought impossible, real.
AI will know and understand and model based on the child interaction.
AI unleashes new possibilities to impact our world. And together, we're not just dreaming it, we're doing it.
Cool, so apologies for the sound. That's the wonders of science, at least the words are on the bottom so you can get a sense of it. So we're pretty proud of the work that's gone on there, and I think the potential for this in some of the world's biggest problems is incredible. Obviously, that's a global video. One of the things we're very proud of is just last week we graduated over a set of companies that over the last 17 weeks have been going through a AI for Good cohort program with us. And that's focused on both accessibility and Earth. And some of these companies are just doing incredible work, and the things that we learnt from them during the process of teaching them about how to run their business, they've inspired us for what's possible going forward. Based on the success of this program, this is some of the cohorts here. Based on the success of this program, we're now thinking about how to scale this out. And I think for some of the organizations that visited the graduation, there were many other large corporate organizations. We're looking now to what does a partnership look like next time round for thinking about how do we create partnerships between startups and Microsoft for looking at AI for Good. So we're excited about what that can do for the future. So I guess in closing, hopefully this morning, despite the sound on the video, you've got a little sense of some of the opportunities that are available for you as leaders, some of the innovation and the things that can change in your organisation, how you can be competitively stronger through the use of AI technology. But that comes with a very big responsibility. It comes with a responsibility for ethics. It comes with a responsibility for skills in order to do that. And this combination of kind of technology and human is really where the kind of the magic of the innovation happens. And perhaps in the words of Shakespeare, going back to the beginning, it certainly is not in the stars that's going to teach us where the future is going to go. It really is in the success and the inspiration of the leaders in the room and the choices that you make going forward. So thank you very much.